let's try something different. Okay, so this is Future Pete coming back into this video. Before it gets started, just to tell you that nothing that I say in the beginning here is going to actually happen. I tell you I'm going to go in with ink. I'm not going to do that. All the things I tried to do did not work. The reason that I left it exactly the way it was just to show you that you can plan to do something and you make a hard turn and go off the side of the road. Don't worry about it. Just keep going and create something that you like. Something that you can say, this is something I created and it's interesting. I like that I did it, even though I had no intention of creating this. It was the exact opposite of what I was going to do. Don't worry about it. Just sometimes that happens. When you experiment, that happens. So don't worry. This is the first time I've ever tried to do this. I wanted to put it on video. See, that's how I do things. The first time I do something and you're going to see a video of it and it's a disaster. Nothing happens the way I wanted to. And I still had fun and still created something else. And maybe I'll create more of these types of things. Who knows? We'll see. But alright, I'll let you hear from me now. So many of you have asked me to do these kind of real-time, as I'm working kind of videos. So I'm going to do that. It's definitely easier for me to keep doing that. And I want to give you something that you enjoy as well. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a little bit of a different technique, one that I don't use. I don't think I've ever used this technique, as a matter of fact. So normally I do an abstract drawing with a pen. I'm going to try and do an abstract drawing just with a single color with some watercolor in there, and then I'm going to go over with a little bit of line, but I'm going to do it very differently than I usually do. You'll see it's not going to be the big splashes of color that I fill in with detail. It's going to be more of, I'm going to go about it like I'm drawing, but just with a brush, and see how that goes. I'm going to be using pulp paper, so I don't know how this is going to work, but I've wanted to use this for a while. I have a Stillman & Burn Zeta series that's a 9x12 book. I have not used that thing in forever, and I want to get it done. I think I got it in 2015, and I just want to finish it up and just be done with it. So I still have like half the book to go. So I'm going to just try this in here. If it doesn't work, I'll scrap it and break out a new watercolor paper, and then we'll just do it that way. But for now, I'm going to try the Stillman & Burn Zeta. It's a little bit smooth, but it also doesn't handle like wet into wet. It does not work at all. So I'm going to have to be very careful with it, but we'll do what I can with it, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start out using the Stillman & Burn book. I'm going to also start out using just a single color. I don't know if I'm going to add more, but I could. And just so I can stop hearing the comments, I'm going to use the Aqua Elite. I'm going to use a regular watercolor brush, not a water brush pen. So I'll use this and see how this goes. I love this brush. This is one of my favorite. I think I'm going to do a video on my favorite actual watercolor brushes because I don't use them very often, so you don't see them. This is my favorite. I have some water over there. I'm not going to have 10 different things of water, dirty water and blue water, and these are the cool colors, and this is the warm colors, and this is the fresh water. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have one little pot of water here and see how it works out, and that's what I'm going to go with. You know, the thing is, with you, when you have a regular watercolor brush, it's actually harder to get the color out of a watercolor brush than it is out of a water brush, because the water brush, you just squeeze it, and a little bit of water comes from the back end, flushes through, it comes all the way through and just pushes that color out. You wipe it off, you're done. This, you have to kind of swirl it around, and anyway, it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. I'm going to start with this, and I wanted to do something just a little bit easier than, not easy, that's not the right word. It has nothing to do with being easier, it has to do with being a technique that other people can imitate fairly well and fairly easily. Now, one thing you'll notice about this brush, there's a tip on that thing that you could pierce an apple with it. But so this is just, I'm just going to try and do little things. I have nothing really in mind here. I'm just going to start to do a little, but I'm going to do this as if I was using a pen. So it's not going to be big, broad strokes. I'm just going to start out very small and see if I'm going to do something with it and just kind of put the color on the paper. Now, the one thing that I do like about this book, and the reason that I picked this one specifically, is not just because it's the oldest one that I have. It's just that the idea is that I can put the color here. Now, if I go to put something else on top of it, this isn't going to move really. The Zeta series, it kind of sucks the color down. So you can see when I go back over, it just makes it a little darker. It doesn't pick up the underneath. And so if I want to add another color later, I can do that. And I guess they basically call this like scumbling. I'm scumbling around here and just trying to find some shapes that I'm going to be happy with using. And don't get hung up on that kind of stuff either. If something seems like it's not going the way that you want it to, don't worry about it. I'm just going to lay a little base in here, and then I'm going to add some ink afterwards and see how that goes. And you may hear me stop talking for a minute because I don't have a whole lot to say today. I actually have a little bit of a headache, so I'm going to give myself a worse headache now talking about this stuff, but that's okay. That's okay. We're just here to have some fun. So I don't want to get anybody down with this thing. I just want you to experiment a little bit. You can come along, copy this, say it was your idea. That's no problem with me. And you can just call it your own. Say you came up with it one day while you were taking a shower and you were watching the water falling, and it just reminded you of this pattern, so you just decided to paint it. That's fine. You make up your own story, whatever you want to tell people. That's not what happened with me. I'm just finding the pattern as I go right now. And that's about it. I just want to... I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to create anything. I'm just putting some imagery down on the page, and then I'll come up with something later of what maybe it could be and how it's going to work. And one thing I like about this method is if you can leave these little white spots that show up in here. You can leave them. Don't worry about them. They're fine. You don't have to cover every little inch of the page. You're going to do this as if you were doing a pen drawing. So it doesn't have to be every little inch of it. Matter of fact, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that for this particular technique, I'm enjoying the brush a lot more than I would the water brush because of what I'm trying to do here. So, but I'm going to go back in here with some other color. I've made that decision already, and just give it some accents maybe, and we'll see how that goes. But I do like to figure out the composition. I'm just trying to play with it until I'm going to be happy with the composition, and then I'm going to go back over it with some ink. And first I'm going to add some color, and then I'll go back over with some ink and see how that works out here. So while I do this, I have a question for you. I want to ask you this question. I'd like to ask you, do you feel sometimes that you're stuck? Do you ever feel like you're scrolling through Instagram, or maybe you're scrolling through some reference photos and you really have no idea what it is that you're looking for, what's going to inspire you? You see so many different things that you're like, I don't know which one I necessarily want to do right now, but you just get stuck. You get that paralysis, that too many choices, and you just get paralyzed from it. Do you ever feel like that? Usually when we're scrolling through videos, if you ever do that with videos, we're scrolling through videos and we're looking for that secret, what's going to be the secret thing that's going to make our art better? What's the secret method? I'll pay you $1,000. Just tell me what the method is. I want to be a better artist. I don't really know what I'm doing exactly, and I would like to know a little bit better. And what is it? What am I doing? What's the secret to getting better with what I'm doing? Because it seems like I just run out of energy. I'm running out of different ideas and opportunities and things that I would like to paint, and I just don't even know anymore. I don't know if I want to paint anything anymore. I may just hang it up because I'm so indecisive. I have no idea what exactly is going on in life, and I want to know what can I do. So here's the thing. I think we forget, a lot of times we forget that, we used to be brand new, and when we used to start to do things, they used to be leaps and bounds of improvement. Someone would tell you one thing, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. That's exactly right, and now I can do this, and you just, like I said, leaps and bounds. You just improve 100 times over. But after you do something for so long, you actually get good at it. You don't know that you're getting good at it, but you get good at it, and you end up where your improvements that you're making are very small because you're actually good. And you just go over and over again, and you're like, oh, this is just terrible. I don't like it. I don't think that this is going to work out for me. I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather just do something different because I'm tired of always doing the same thing. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. This may be a mistake. I'm going to go in with the Powell Crimson because it's a new color on my palette, and I want to experiment a little bit with it, but it may be a mistake here. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, so one of the things I want you to understand is that sometimes you can feel like you're getting a little stale in what you're doing, and it feels like you're just repeating yourself over and over, and you're not really getting anywhere with anything. But what that usually ends up leading to is where you put your pen down, you put your brush down, you put your pencil down, sometimes for a couple days, sometimes for a couple weeks, but sometimes it lasts way too long. You never get out of that rut. So you end up with it, there it is, you're just sitting there a couple years later realizing you haven't done anything different. You haven't done anything, period. You just never picked up your stuff again. You never went back into it. And I want to encourage you not to do that. I think it's a discouraging thing that we get in our own heads. And sometimes we are not doing the things we really want to do anyway. So once it comes to that, we just, oh no, forget it. That's it. I'm done with that. So I'm going to try and help you. If you feel like that, I'm going to try and help you with a little bit of advice. I hope it does help. I hope there's someone that may need to listen to this and hear this. And I really hope that it helps. If you're in that situation, some people never get in that situation. Some people, you can give them a pad and a pen, and they're just as happy as could be for the rest of their life. They'll just sit there and draw all day. But some people get into that rut. I think we all get into that rut a little bit sometimes. I don't know. I know I do. I get into the rut. What actually helps me not get into the rut is this YouTube channel, because I have to put out a video. And so even when I don't really know what I want to do, I do something like this. I don't really know what I want to do, but I'm going to experiment a little bit and see if I can do something a little different and see if it helps at all. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You never know. You have no idea what's going on. So first, understand. You have to understand where you are. Like I was saying, you have to understand that sometimes you're at a point where you have already improved so much. You're doing so much better than you ever were. And you're just looking for an improvement. And it's not coming day by day. Sometimes you have to start looking week over week. Sometimes you get better and you have to start looking month over month. Sometimes you get better and you have to go year over year. You just have to do that. You just keep plugging away. I promise you, if you're doing something, not every piece is going to be better than the last. That's for sure. You are going to do something sometimes and you're going to be like, I don't know why I listened to that guy Pete. He's a moron. But you just have to trust me that you're going to feel like you're getting better eventually. The piece that you do right now, it may be worse than the piece you just did a week ago. Sometimes you feel like you're going backwards, but sometimes you start to go backwards and then you really break free and go forward. Sometimes it takes that little bit of something to just give you a little bit of an extra push, and you get there. You will get there. I'm not saying you're going to get there immediately, but you'll get to the point where you eventually you'll see the improvement. You can't not. You're going to have to see that little bit of improvement somewhere, because you're doing it. You're putting in the work, and it's a skill. Skills are developed. If I gave you 1,000 nails and I told you to nail them into wood, and you nailed them all in by hand, by the time you got to that one that was 1,000, you'd have a system worked out. You'd figure out that this is the least amount of taps I've got to use. I got to go at it at this angle, or it's going to pop on me when I get to the end, or what. I'm going to do it crooked unless I do it like this. You'll figure out a system, and that's how art is. It's a skill that you're developing, and there's a method to it. You just have to figure out your method. Don't always look to other people. Sometimes people will tell you, oh yeah, just do this, and it's the wrong thing to do. You don't want to do that. You want to just figure out what's the best thing for you. It's good to take advice from other people and figure out what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be the best thing for you all the time. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes what they do is definitely not the way you should be doing it. You have to figure that out for yourself. Second, and I think this is probably the biggest help, is that you need to make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. If you're not enjoying what you're doing it wrong. Art is fun. It's an experiment. You're trying to figure out different things that you could do to make things your own, and different ways that you work faster or better, or however you do it. And you don't have to always have what everybody else is doing. You don't always have to do that. But you got to make sure, you always do have to make sure you're having fun doing it. So look, if this is your profession and you have deadlines to hit, I understand sometimes you're not in the mood. You don't feel like you're having fun anymore. So it kind of drags on a little bit. But I'm telling you, if you're really an artist, if you're really putting everything you can into your art, you need to have fun with it. And if this is your profession and the thing that you are having difficulty with, don't do that at home. Don't do that on your spare time. Do something else that you may feel a little bit better about, something that you enjoy a little bit more. And then go from there. You go from that point. But here's another reason that it could be. Another reason is you may love art. You may enjoy it when you create it, but when you sit down to start it, you have no idea what to do. You just sit there staring at a page. You're flipping through Instagram. You're flipping through YouTube. You're trying to find all these different things that you could be doing, and you never end up getting started. I know that happens to me sometimes. Sometimes I don't know exactly what I want to do, and I'm just, let me just try this or try that and see. Maybe I can do something a little bit different this time. And then I just sit there spending time looking, what can I do that's different? I've already done the other things. I want to do something different. Now what do? I realize this looks like an old tree. That was not my intention. I was just trying to draw a pattern, but that's how it's coming out. So I'm just going with it right now. We'll see. I don't really know. But I think when this happens, you need to stop the stimulation. Look, it's always important to get inspiration from the art that you're looking at. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do, so I'll start scrolling, and you just never stop scrolling. You get that paralyzed moment where you're just like, oh, I don't know. I could have been doing all these things, and now I'm not really sure what I should be doing or what I'm going to do, so I'm just gonna keep scrolling. And that's what you do. You just keep scrolling, and you're not realizing that you're just really wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. You get excited about 300 different things. You're right back to where you started, not knowing what you're going to start with and what you're going to do. And that's just as frustrating as not having just where you started. You're basically exactly where you started. So sometimes the idea is to not keep scrolling. Just find one thing. Just go when the first thing excites you. Don't look at 100 things from that artist anymore. That first thing excited you, just go to that again. Just go to that first thing and see if that's, okay, that first thing excited me pretty well. I'm going to stick with that for a little bit and just do that one thing. I think that really helps. I think when When people realize that you can just stop. You don't have to keep going. Just end up stopping and just do what you have to do at that point. That way you don't keep running yourself crazy. Your mind is going to just keep going. It's go, oh yeah, and I can do this, and I can add this, and I can do. And here's something: even if you want to keep going, what I would suggest is to find something that you enjoy, something in a drawing that you like. Start doing that thing, and then just decide, okay, I'm stopping. I'm going to go find one of the other things that excited me, and just add that to it instead. Or with it, not instead. You're adding it with it. And now I am going to go with the Perylene Violet because I put that in basically everything that I do. So I'm going to add that to the bottom part here. Now when I do things, I enjoy doing different things. I get bored with the same thing over and over again where I don't really... I'd rather just do something different in the next one. I've done 3 of these, I'm going to do 1 of these. Or I've done 1 of these and I'm sick of it already and I need to go a little bit further. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that if that's what you want to do, and it just sometimes it breaks it up for me, breaks up the monotony. But I'm also someone who does not look at my work and say, oh man, I didn't get better this week. I'm not looking at it for better. I'm more looking at it as, did I do something interesting this week? That's the only thing I look at. Doesn't have to always be better. And I want to urge you, that's the last thing I would like to urge you on is, if you're going to do something like that, just try and do something better than the last. Not better. I just said that. You want to do something different, just interesting. Did I do something interesting? Is the piece I did interesting? Not is it better? Is it interesting? And that way you can just compare interesting to interesting. Yeah, I think I did do something interesting. I really liked what I did in this piece, even if it's not the whole thing. Maybe you just found like one thing that you really liked. Oh yeah, I really like that I did this one thing better. And you just, not better. I keep saying the word, I'm confusing myself. I did it interesting. I did this one thing that was very interesting to me, and I just think that it's a little bit more interesting than something else that I might have not done this week, or something else that I did this week. I like this one thing. Maybe I don't like everything I've done this week. Maybe I just find the one thing that interested me, and I say, yes, you know what? That was interesting, and I maybe do something else like that again in the future or sometime soon. But you just want to, I'm telling you, you just have to convince yourself that not every piece is going to be better. You stop looking for that. Stop looking for, is everything always, is this better than the thing I just did last time? It doesn't matter. Is it interesting? Do you like it? It doesn't have to be better. It could be worse. You know how many times I do a drawing and then I go to do another drawing. I do something I really love, and then I go to do something else and it's terrible and it's horrible and it fails, and oh, that's not interesting at all. And then I do another one and that one fails, is not interesting at all. And then the next one, that one sometimes fails and it's not interesting at all. Let me tell you, that's a real struggle you could have sometimes. You can, oh yeah, okay, this is not very good, but don't give up. All you're trying to do is do something interesting. Oh look, I did something interesting in this week. Was it better? I don't know. I don't think it was, but I don't care if it was better. It was interesting and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I had fun while I was creating it. That's so important. I had a great time. You can't tell the difference between those two colors. That's a red, that's a purple or a violet. You can't tell the difference. That was a terrible idea. See? That was a terrible idea. I should not have done that. But look, I'm okay that I messed something up. So you should be okay that you messed something up. It's okay that you can't tell the difference. So maybe I didn't need it to tell the difference. Maybe it looks fine and interesting all by itself, and that didn't need to be there. Maybe I was going to do the ink, and I'm not going to do that anymore because I think this looks pretty interesting all by itself. It could. So I don't know if I'm going to put any ink in here. I don't know if I want to. I think I like it the way it is because I'm experimenting and I'm figuring out that sometimes you just do something, and if it looks interesting, which I think this ended up being a little interesting, it's more like a little landscape piece or something like that. But I think, and that's, once I decided that, I put this bottom in here. I did not do that at first because I wasn't sure of that. But now that I was sure of it, I said, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I may add some ink. I may add some ink right here when I sign my name. That's ink, right? So that's what I'm going to do. And what I want to say is, if for some reason you do want to get through that struggle, listen, not everything I say is for every person. So if you are one of those people that you need to get better, you need to make sure that you're improving, then you pick a single thing and you do 100 pieces of it. And if you look at the first piece and you look at the 100th piece, you should see a difference. And like I said, I know you would improve doing that because art is a skill and you're going to get better at it the more you do it. So if you're doing the same thing over and over, you'll learn where your mistakes are. You'll learn where you did something maybe a way that you was not a pleasant way for you. But here's what I want you to do. Find something that you did like about that piece and pull it into the next one. So if you're going to do 100 of these, just take one thing that you liked about it, move it into the next one, and do that one, and then move that into the next one, and do that one. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, that you're just pulling something over into it. And eventually, when you get to 100, and I'm not saying literally 100, you may do 10, but when you get to the end, eventually, you'll see a difference there. You'll see an improvement somewhere, and you'll be able to look at it and say, I'm pretty proud of that. I see the improvement. And I know you will. Like right now, I'm going to improve this by popping a little bit more color in. I shouldn't. I'm going to overwork it. I already know that. Take a mental picture. This is what it looked like when it was good. But let me tell you, do you have any idea when I first started this channel, how many different gurus I went to try and find what's the secret to doing this whole YouTube thing? What am I supposed to do? And every video is like 300 different things that you're supposed to... every single day they're coming out with a video on something you should change to improve. Do this. That'll improve your videos. That'll improve your watch time. And sometimes it really, really didn't. Because when you're doing a channel and you put out a video, the video you're putting out today is barely marginally better than the one you just put out. You're not going to all of a sudden have an explosion of growth because of one thing that you just did. You want that, but it's not likely to happen. So you have to keep that in mind. It's the same thing with art. You're going to want to grow very drastically. And in the beginning, you will. You pick up, if you really want to see that growth, if you really need that, go do something new. You'll see the growth. You'll see, oh yeah, okay, this is much better. I was able to do a little bit better with this one here and maybe a little bit more. But once you do that one for a while, you'll go back to it and you'll see, oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't really improve that much this time. And now I'm starting not to improve as much as I wanted to all the rest of the time. So that's going to happen. It's a part of it. It's a part of it's a part of art. You just gotta work it the best you can. Do something that you think is nice and interesting, and sometimes, and other times it's okay if it's not. Don't worry about it. Nothing about art is final. It's not like it's the last piece you're ever going to do. You're going to do another one. I promise. You're going to do another one, and that one you're going to say there's something similar about it. Oh, I didn't like it. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, and you're going to say the same stuff. So just relax. Make sure that you're having fun. That's all. If you're having fun, you're never going to be wasting your time. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you're doing anything, you're never really wasting your time. Can you develop bad habits and reinforce them? Yes, you absolutely can, but that doesn't mean you will. I think that extra red made it look a little bit more ominous, and I was not trying to do that. It looks weird. This is like, I should have done this for like Halloween or something. This is definitely not a nice early or late spring, early summer drawing. That's not what this is. Alright, so since this went way off script, and I'm not happy with it just being like this, and I'm going to just do a little bit more anyway. I'm going to go ahead and use some of the Derwent Inktense pencils. Some of you said that you don't like these. I love these pencils, and I think that they're really good. They work very well, and you can just put just such a subtle thing into a painting to make it look a little bit better. So I'm not going to do a lot. I'm just going to put a little halo glow around the background and see how that works out. You can see I've sharpened these. That tip is really pointy right there. Very good tip on here. This is from the Derwent Superpoint pencil sharpener. That's what I always use for all of my pencils. Works great. And I'm just going to start just doing very, very little. I just want to add a little bit of color in the background. So I'm going to use these little circles and kind of just add what I can here. And I'm going to use two different colors. I'm going to make sure that I kind of space it out a little bit. But you see how light I'm doing it. It's going to pop. The color is going to come out of it very strong. And that's why a lot of people don't like them, is because they aren't sure how to control them exactly. And sometimes it can be difficult. I'm not sure how these are going to work on this paper. So I'm just going to wing it here and see. Maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it won't. We'll see how that goes. But I'm just adding a little bit of color, not a whole lot. I just want to have a little glow behind the background area here. I don't know if I'm going to go around the whole thing. I might, but I'm not sure. I might just leave where the branches part of that tree in the background kind of stick out, and just go up around this major section right here. I might just do that. And I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure exactly how this is going to turn out. I'm not sure if I'm ruining the piece right now. I could be. I tend to do that. I just go too far with it. I experiment a little bit too much. And then it ends up being where I really went too far and can't really go much further than that. And that's okay. Don't worry about stuff like that. What did I just say before? You got to make sure it's interesting. If it's not interesting, it's not worth it. If you're not having fun, it's not worth it. So I'm having a lot of fun right now doing this. Now you can use whatever colors you want. I choose to use a little, because it's so strong with the dark gray and then the red, and it really seemed to pop a lot. I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit of purple and see how that works. It seems like that would be a good glow to have coming off the back of here. It should be harmonious and it should work out. There's a couple different shades I'm going to try using. This is more of a lighter shade. You'll see once it hits the water, it'll pop a little bit, and then I'm going to go just over the surface area with a little bit more of a darker, deeper purple, so that it kind of blends out a little bit. And we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to add now this lighter color here, or sorry, the darker color here on top of it, and see just a little bit. I'm not really looking to get a whole lot of color off of here. I just want to do a little bit, so I'm being very sketchy with it. I'm not trying to fill in any of the paper. Just do what you can and just see. These will pop, I'm telling you. It'll pop a lot more than what it seems like. It's very, very light right here, but it's just enough. And I don't want to push the paper too hard. You can push the paper too hard, and then you're sitting there with the paper gets all shredded and starts to peel apart, and you don't want that. Now, so I was shocked. This paper has surprised me. I was shocked. I thought that doing this, that it was going to fall apart, because I've done other things where I've put multiple layers on with this kind of paper, and it didn't work out too well. But this seemed to do really well. I was actually very happy with how this came out. So okay, for this I am going to use the water brush, because I'm just using water, and I just want to use very little, so I want to be able to control it very well. So I know I've said this before, but you got to empty that reservoir with water. So when you squeeze it, that water comes out and drips. You have to touch the paper towel and you'll see the spots open up, because all the water is kind of draining out of it, and you just want a very, very light amount of water in here just to touch this. And as soon as you go to touch it, you'll see that it starts to open up a little bit. The colors mix, they're mixed pretty good, not too bad. And I'm just adding a little bit of a glow in the background. It's not dissolving the paper, the pencil all the way. That's okay. It's fine. It just gives it a little bit more texture when it's dissolving. So there must be more tooth in the paper than I thought, than I realized, and so it's kind of just, yeah, it's definitely not dissolving all the way, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's still going to give a nice glow to it, and I think it's working pretty much what I wanted to do. So that's the important part there. And it might pick up. See, this is the other thing about this paper. It's not picking up the paint as it touches the other paint. So the red's not coming off into it. The dark dusky blue is not coming off into it. That Payne's blue gray is not coming up off of it. It's just blending that pencil, because this paper sucks it in. It sucks in that color. And it's one of the things that you can either like or not like about a paper. But if you're going to use it the way that it works, then you're going to be pleasantly surprised. You're going to be happy with the result, because that's how you meant for it to work. If I wanted that to lift off and bleed into that background color, that's different. Then I'm saying, okay, now this is really not working. But I'd say that right now it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do, and just allowing me to put a little bit of a shaded kind of glow in the background, just to make it look a little something. There's going to be more to this. There's going to be a little bit more. I'm not just going to leave it like this. I want to put a little bit more of a spread out. Not like it's a meal. I'm not putting a spread out. That's what you say when you put food on someone's table. You say you're putting out a spread, and that's different. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just going to put a little bit more of a glow in the background, I think, and just kind of build that up a little bit. So let me just give this a second. I'm going to speed through a little bit of a drying process here, because I don't want to go right back into it. That's when the paper starts to pill and starts to get destroyed. So I'm just going to do a little bit of something here, and then we'll see. It actually went a little bit quicker than I thought, because I did not use a whole lot of water. So that dried up nicely, fairly easily. And I'm going to go on top with the darker of the two colors here. Just a little bit, again, just a little bit over what I had already done. And I could be ruining it. Some of you might say, what are you doing? It was fine the way it was. Now you're putting more stuff on. You're destroying the whole thing. And I could be. I tend to do stuff like that. I have no problem with it. But some people don't like that, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do anyway here is might just give it a couple more little details that kind of go up in the background. And then as I get to the top here, I'll just put a little bit more of just a slighter shade on there. Just a little bit around the outside with the darker color. So I want you to tell, do you ever use these pencils this way? I love the water-soluble pencils, because you can be they're controlled very easily. You can put the color exactly where you want to put it, and then let the color come out. But I've heard a lot of you say that you do not like these pencils. They're not your thing. I love these things. I use them quite a bit. I don't use them on the channel. I'm going to do more of that on the channel, because I really like them. And if you want to know more, I might do a whole drawing just with these and show you how to just keep adding layers. I'll have to do it on some good watercolor paper, but I might do that. I might just say, okay, let's do this a little bit and just see how you can add some of this and do a whole drawing with it. It looks like pencil. You add a little bit of water. Everything works out wonderfully well. So this is starting to add a second layer to what I already added. It should build a layer on top. It should almost look like it's fading into the darker layer that's in the background as I barely touch the surface of the other color, and it's just what it is. It's a fun experiment, and that's what it is. So and up here I'm just going to do a little bit. I don't want a whole lot going around the outside here. just a little bit. You see I'm stopping talking right now because I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing, and I just cannot do those two things at one time. I'm trying to tell you and explain to you what I'm doing, but my voice is getting lower. I'm going to have to boost the crap out of this so that you can even hear what I'm saying. I tried to make the microphone a little bit closer because I knew I was going to do that, but that's okay. I could keep going. I could keep building layers and just keep going with this, but I think I'm just about done. I think that's about where I want to leave it. But if you would like this, if this is something you enjoyed me seeing me do, let me know. I'd like to do some more of these. I'm not sure how they will come out. Definitely, this was not planned. This is the opposite of what I had planned. This is not at all what I had planned, but that's okay. I think it's a little interesting, so I'm happy with it, and that's where I'm going to leave it. So thumb up the video if you are going to go back to whatever you were doing and just relax a little bit and realize that it's okay if it's not better than the last one. It's okay if it's a little worse than the last one, or the next 3 of them are worse than that. You just have fun, make sure you're doing what you love to do, and just keep working at it. You will eventually get better. You will improve. I promise you, it has to happen. It's a skill. It's a skill you develop. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.